Our verse for today is coming from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This begins the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus climbed the mountain with his disciples, and he gave this sermon from chapters 5 to chapter 7 of Matthew's Gospel. This first of these Beatitudes, which announces, declares, Macarius, fortunate, happy, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, is one of the Beatitudes that we know very well and has been interpreted in so many ways. But I want to call our mind to something. The fact that every human being is rich. Once you are breathing, you know how much oxygen costs. Once you have life, you are rich. But what I feel is often the problem is that fact of recognizing that we are also poor and therefore asking for help. Because as Jesus said, if we remember, when Levi was called, people were murmuring that he entered into the house of a sinner. He was eating with sinners. The same murmuring they had when Zacchaeus welcomed the Lord. And Jesus said, salvation has entered this house. Jesus said, in that context of Levi, I have come not for those who are okay, but for the sick. So we all are rich, and there are things we brag about. There are things each of us have that we can bring to the table. But to enter the kingdom, we need to recognize our poverty, our wretchedness, so that we can seek for help, so that we can be welcomed into this kingdom. Because whatever we have, there will be a time when we will lose it. Is it health? Is it life? Is it wealth? Is it friends? What is that thing that we're not gonna lose? So, I want to read this message in the book of Revelation chapter 3. The message to the church of Laodicea. Part of it will help us to understand what I'm talking about. At some point, giving this message, he said, for you say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not knowing that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. Therefore, I counsel you to buy from me gold refined by fire, that you may be rich, and white garments to clothe yourself, and to keep the shame of your nakedness from being seen. So the issue now is that just as the Pharisees, often described in the Gospels, we are thinking that they are rich, like the Pharisee of Luke chapter 18, who, filled with himself, was bragging about himself. He could not enter into this kingdom. The poor, though rich, because tax collectors were rich, but the poor tax collector was into the kingdom. Let me finish with this thing we normally say before we receive communion. Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. It was said by a rich man, a centurion, who said, I have the authority. I said to one man, come, and he comes. Another goes, and he goes. But this man, recognizing his poverty before the sickness of his servant, sought for help. The invitation for all of us is to make peace with the reality of our poverty, of our wretchedness, before things we cannot resolve, before that our marriage, before our health, before our spiritual emptiness, before every problem. and turn to God, who announces his kingdom, so that, like Zacchaeus, who left seeking God, God can find us. And when he finds us, we have that joy of being in his kingdom.